Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. Okay, Moadim L'Simcha, everyone. Chag Sameach. We are continuing with the Peticha of Sefer Hafetz Haim in our study of the laws of Lashon Hara. He writes as follows: Be'avat Hashem Yitbarach, with the love of Hashem's for Et Amo Yisrael, the Jewish people, his nation, Ve'chafetz me'od b'tovatam, and his desire to do good. So much so that he refers to all of us as his sons, his children, and his nachala, his portion, his legacy. And as well, many other different descriptors which demonstrate and show his love for Am Yisrael. As it's written in the Pasuk, I have loved you, said Hashem. He distanced the Jewish people from engaging in any type of negative, bad character traits. Ubifrat mi Lashon Hara or Rechilut, particularly the trait of Lashon Hara and Rechilut. Ki hu mevi et bnei Adam lidei riv umatzah, because it brings a person to fighting and matzah. Matzah here is not the matzah that you eat, but the quarrels. V'kama pe'amim yuchal lavo lidei shefichut damim. It can even bring a person, God forbid, to bloodshed. Like the Rambam writes in the 7th chapter of B'chot De'ot, that even though we don't incur lashes for speaking Lashon Hara, Avon Gadolhu is it is a huge avera. It's a grave sin. The reason why we don't receive any lashes is because it's speech is not. You only receive lashes through an action, and speech is not considered, is not deemed an action, so therefore he's not subject to lashes. But he does. It is a grave sin. Ve'gorem laharog nefashot rabot miYisrael, and causes murder of many souls. Lekach nismach lo tachmod al dam re'echa. That's why the Torah, when it commands us lo terech rachil be'amecha, not to be a talebearer, not to be a rachil, which is the avera of rechilut. The pasuk or the phrase right after is lo ta'amod adam re'echa. Don't stand idly while your fellow's blood is shed. Seulmad, learn from here. Ma era le doeg adomi. What happened in the story of Doeg Adomi Urnov Ira Kohanim, and the city of Nov of Kohanim, where because of Doeg's rechilut, because Doeg went and he slandered about David to Shaul, it ended up Shaul going to the city of Nov and massacring the residents of the city. It was one of the worst atrocities that ever took place in our history, when a Jewish king went and killed Kohanim. It wasn't just regular people, not every Jew's neshama is neshama, but alachat kama kama, the Kohanim, all because of this man Doeg, who's relating rechilut as what David was doing, that they were providing safe haven for David when he was escaping Shaul's attempts to kill him. Ve'od kama ra'ot atzumot, many other calamities that have resulted from this midah. Of course, the sin of the nachash that persuaded Chava to eat from the Etz Hadat, it was accomplished mainly through Lashon Hara. Shediber Lashon Hara ala Kadosh Baruch Hu, because the snake spoke Lashon Hara about God. She'amar min ha'ilan hazeh achal ubara et ha'olam, saying that Hashem himself ate from this tree, and because he ate from this tree, that's what allowed him to create the world. So that's why he doesn't want anybody to eat from this tree. But this is the tree that allowed him to create the world. Of course, it was not true. Lashon hara. Va'edeh pita et Chava. The serpent managed to seduce Chava, kemo she'amru Chazal, like the rabbis tell us in Masechet Shabbat. Ba nachash al Chava vehetil ba zuhama. The nachash came and inject the zuhama, an impurity. Zuhama is a negative, or the worst of the negative forces, spiritual force in her. Shareh shegaram gilui arayot. We also see that it led to immorality. V'gam mita lechol ha'olam, and it brought death to the entire world. Hareh shfichut damim. So there's your bloodshed. V'ayedeh through that lashon hara garam le'adam harishon v'chava la'avol ha'retzono shel hakadosh baruch hu. And that's how they violated the word of Hashem. Umemela zeh hamdaber lashon hara ochez b'midato hamaschetet livriyat ha'olam. So it turns out that if you are a person who speaks lashon hara, you are kiviyachol adopting this type of attribute of something that destroys the world, destroys the creation, what Hashem created, because that's what led to Adam and Chava eating from the tree, which brought death to the world, and therefore you're doing the same. Another calamity. V'gam sha'ikar sibat yeridat Yisrael leMitzrayim hayta lecha techila al yedeh zeh. You should know that the main cause why the Jewish people went down to Mitzrayim was a result of this Averav Lashon Hara, kemo shekatuv, like the pasuk says, Vayaveh Yosef et dibatam ra'a el avihem. Yosef brought the negative reports about them to their father. There were 3 negative reports that are brought down. The Gemara talks about it. Rashi quotes it. That one, that they were eating ever minachai, that's a limb of a live animal. That they were belittling the children of the maidservants of Bilhah and Zilpah, and that they were looking inappropriately at women. So those were the 3 things that Yosef went to tell their father about. Because of Yosef's words, it was decreed in heaven, midah b'midah, measure for measure, shenimkar le'eved, that he should be sold as slave. Why was he sold as slave? Because having said to Yaakov during the relation of those evil words about Leah's sons, that they called their other brothers slaves. Found in the Midrash. Even though Yosef had justification to permit this negative report, we see that no justification actually helped him, because he was punished anyways. And of course he was sold into slavery, and that led to the descent into Egypt. More than that, our current exile, our current galut right now, is primarily because of the sin of the spies. Like the Torah tells us, like it says in Tehillim, Hashem lifted his hand against them to make them fall and scatter them among the lands. Rashi explains over there that the Jewish people were exiled from Eretz Yisrael in punishment for the spies who disparaged Eretz Yisrael, because they spoke negatively about the land. The Ramban also there writes in that parasha, in Parashat Shlach, and the Gemara tells us in Arachin that the primary sin for the Meraglim was because they spoke Lashon Hara, for they slandered the land. And because the Jewish people at that moment cried for no reason, so it was decreed upon them that they were going to cry for generations as a result of the spy sin of Lashon Hara. Ve'od kama ra'ot ad ed mispar hisigunu. We have other calamities al yedeh chet hechamur hazeh, due to this terrible sin of Lashon Hara. Ki gam kol chachmei Yisrael shenehergu. There was mass murder of Torah scholars, bimei Shimon ben Shatach, giso shel Yanai HaMelech, that was committed in the time of Shimon ben Shetach, who was King Yanai's brother-in-law, al yedeh Yanai, by King Yanai, haya gamken al yedeh rechilut, which came through rechilut, Kedeita b'kedushin ayen sham, because look in Kiddushin over there. So over here, the note below relates the Gemara. We are almost there, in fact, in our Daf Yomi. We're going to get there soon. But there, I'll just read the note. The Gemara relates how Yanai, one of the Chashmonaim kings, returned from a military victory and called all the Torah sages to celebrate the victory in the Bet HaMikdash. However, an evil person named Elazar ben Poriah told Yanai that the rabbis in fact rejected him, and to prove it, he told Yanai to put on the tzitz, which was normally worn by the Kohen Gadol. He did so, and a certain elder named Yehuda ben Gediah protested. For although the Chashmonaim were Kohanim, there were rumors that Yanai's mother had been taken captive and violated by the captors, in which case Yanai would not be a valid Kohen. Yanai realized that Elazar ben Poriah's accusation that the sages rejected him was correct, and Elazar then recommended to the king to kill all the rabbis for their insolence. He did so, killing all the Chachamim except Shimon ben Shetach, who was hidden. Elazar ben Poriah's report to the king that the rabbis doubted his validity as a Kohen constituted a chilut, in that it caused Yanai to hate the Chachamim, and the result of this rechilut was the murder of a whole generation of Torah scholars. End of note. Not only that, here's another one. Varigat hatana Rabbi Eliezer Amodai, the murder of the Tana of Rabbi Elazar Amodai, shaya gam ken siba lechurban Beitar, which also caused the destruction of the city of Beitar. Haya gam ken al yedei rechilut, which was a result of rechilut shehirchilu alav lifnei ben koziva, because people spoke rechilut about him in front of ben koziva, kedeita ben midrash echa, which is found in midrash echa. So I'll read you that note. Around 50 years after the destruction of the second Bet HaMikdash, Shimon ben Koziva led a revolt that became known as the Bar Kokhba uprising. You may have heard that. He was based in the city of Beitar, where he was joined by his uncle Rabbi Elazar Hamodai, who was also one of the Tanaim. The Midrash recounts how for 3.5 years Hadrian laid siege to the city of Beitar in an attempt to crush the revolt, but each day Rabbi Elazar Hamodai fasted, pleading to Hashem. His prayers were effective, and Hadrian was unable to conquer the city. Hadrian was then approached by an elderly Kuti, who offered to solve the issue for him by trumping up false charges against Rabbi Elazar Hamodai. The Kuti snuck into Beitar, approached Rabbi Elazar Hamodai, and pretended to whisper in his ear. Rabbi Elazar, who was deeply engrossed in tefillah, did not notice, but other observers reported the suspicious activity to Bar Kokhba. Bar Kokhba knew the sages had withdrawn their support from him and suspected that they secretly sought to make peace with the Romans. He summoned the elderly Kuti, who confessed to being a messenger between Rabbi Elazar and Hadrian in an attempt to create a truce. This false accusation of the Kuti against Rabbi Elazar ben Hamodai constituted rechilut. Bar Kokhba summoned his uncle, who denied all knowledge of the Kuti whispering in his ear. Enraged, Bar Kokhba kicked the elderly Rabbi Elazar, and he died from the blow. At that moment, a heavenly decree declared the fall of the city of Beitar. Okay, that's the Midrash brought down in Megillat Echa. Okay, we have still some time because we ended pretty early today. So let's go on. Umipene godel haraot, due to the terrible evils shenimseu b'midah hamguna azot, that are inherent in this midah. The Torah specifically prohibited to us, belav delot telech rachil. We have a negative commandment that we should not go as a talebearer. We are going to explain this below, and when he goes and lists all the lavim, all the lo ta'asehs that one transgresses with Lashon Hara. He says, velo kemo ka'as ve'achzariyut ve'letzanut. This is contrast to anger or cruelty or scoffing, ushar midot hanishchatot, other really bad, depraving traits. Af shegam hema mashchitim et toar hanefesh ve'tzurata, even though they too destroy the integrity of one's soul. V'gam alehem ramza haTorah bekama mekomot, and the Torah alludes to them in several places. K'mvar b'divrei Chazal, im kol zeh en alehem lav beferush b'minyan tariag. None of those bad traits actually have a prohibition among the 613 mitzvot. It doesn't write anywhere not to be angry, because if it was, we would be transgressing an averah. But we know it's a bad trait. We know it's something we have to work on, and it's part of our midot. And anger management is very much a part of Jewish life, and I think that we have to work on. okay, to manage and control our tempers, but it's not allowed. It's not allowed. And the terrible midah of Lashon Hara is indeed one of the lavin. Ve'od nireh pashut ta'am acher. There's another reason, Masha Hisira Torah Bifrat Hazeh, that the Torah specifically cautioned us against this. Mipeneh shekasher nedayek be'emer b'prat hazeh. When you pay attention to this detail, dehainu lashon hara urechilut, nimsa, you'll find shekimat hem kolelin kol halavin ve'asim. As such cases encompass almost all the negative and positive commandments sheyimaseh ben adam lahavero, that pertain between a man and his friend. Ve'harbe mi ben adam lamakom, and many as well between man and Hashem. Kasher neva'er im yirtzeh Hashem, as we will explain be'ezrat Hashem. Lekach hishirat haTorah otanu beperush. That's why the Torah specifically cautioned us about lashon hara and rechilut, kedei shelo nilached b'metzuda hara'ah hazot, to not be snared in this trap. Be'atid ani leva'er davar zeh be'ezrat Hashem yiparach. I will elaborate this with Hashem's help. Umizeh yetzeh derech agav to'elet rabah, which will bring us an incidental benefit. Lekama halachot acherot, when clarifying other areas of halacha. V'gam ulai al yedeh zeh yinagef hayetzer. More than that, maybe by showing how much we are violating, we will be able to subdue the yetzer hara who is trying to get us to speak. Biroto godel ha'meuma v'machshela, when one realizes all the turmoil and the machshela, the stumbling blocks that are put there in your place, that his words can cause. So he says, now I will begin with the help of Hashem, the one who grants wisdom to man. To begin, a person should be familiar with basic halachic principles. You know what? This is a longer piece. I think we're almost at the time. I think we'll stop here and we'll continue with these principles tomorrow.